welcome to another episode of Brettcast Transformers School. So this episode will be about another of the 13 primes, and the one I will be talking about is Onyx Prime. So here's everything that you need to know about Onyx Prime. Of the 13, Onyx Prime, the Lord of Beasts, is the most spiritually minded of their number. In tune with both the creatures of the natural world and the intangible realm of the spirit, he alone has the ability to properly use the three-faced triptych mask given to him by Primus. This artifact allows him to cast his spirit across vast distances, to commune with the dreams of far-off beings, or even track the journey of a spark across the afterlife. Though some view these strange mental voyages across distant realms as mere flights of fancy, Onyx and his visions make him one of the most inspirational primes. Onyx Prime's spiritual aptitude allowed him to cultivate an inscrutable presence that made him appear mysterious and slightly intimidating at the best of times, even to other members of the 13. In spite of his powers, Onyx Prime is a kind-hearted and friendly individual at Spark, a trait that made him one of the most liked members of the 13. Indeed, all of his siblings treated him as a fiercely loyal companion and a steadfast confidant, Micronus Prime in particular. As the first Transformer to possess a beast mode, those Transformers who revere him as the greatest of the primes tend to eschew their vehicle alternate modes of other Transformers, preferring to wear the animalistic forms exemplified by their spiritual progenitor, Covenant of Primus. Onyx Prime was the 8th member of the 13 produced by Primus to serve as his children and warriors against his opposite, Unicron. As one of the mid-level 13 spawned between the opposing warriors Prima and Megatronus, Onyx Prime had more balanced and elemental quality. He was a fierce warrior and fought valiantly in the battle with Unicron, but also had a spiritual side that intrigued some of his fellows while flummoxing others. He was very close to Solus Prime, and was perhaps best friends with Micronus Prime. The death of Solus Prime hit Onyx harder than any other member of the Primes. It was Onyx who discovered her body in her workshop, and the cry he let loose chilled Alpha Trion to his very oil. He had to be physically restrained by Vector Prime's power after finding Solus, and held in that position to prevent him from seeking vengeance on Megatronus himself. When the division between Megatronus and Liege Maximo came to a head, all that remained 13 warred with one another in a battle lust that was divorced from all possible reason. When they regained their senses, the 13 found Maximo dead and Onyx Prime gravely injured. As Megatronus declared himself the Fallen forevermore and exiled himself from Cybertron, the 13 questioned what to do next. Solus Prime's body had melted down to the core of Cybertron, creating a font of life that could potentially produce new Cybertronians. As his dying act, Onyx Prime volunteered to catalyze the process, journeying down into this well of all sparks with the power of his triptych max, reorganizing the 13 patterns of the 13 into an endless variety of new Cybertronians. They believed the power of Primus would preserve Onyx Prime at the core forevermore, keeping him from the death awaiting his injuries. Quintus Prime, Alchemist Prime, and Amalgamous Prime each contributed some of their power and skills to this experiment as well, ensuring its success. In the end, Optimus Prime and Micronus Prime chose to journey down into the well with Onyx Prime. Optimus Prime intended to be reincarnated among the new sparks, allowing him to live among them and learn from them. Micronus Prime could not bear to be parted from Onyx, and chose to exile himself to the core with his mortally wounded friend as well. The experiment was a success, and the Well of Allsparks soon erupted with an endless array of new life forms, brought into existence by Onyx Prime and the power of his brothers and sisters. The Predacons of the Age of Evolution certainly drew strongly from Onyx's pattern, as did the other beast formers that followed in their wake over time. IDW Generation 1 Continuity. In the Barbarian Age, after the departure of the Knights of Cybertron, Onyx was the leader of a flock of wayward and mistreated Cybertronians. Searching for whatever energon they could find, one day they came across the time-lost Shockwave, transported 12 million years into the past as a result of the destruction of his chronal drive. The kindly Onyx offered the damaged Shockwave some of their energon and introduced himself. Realizing the implications of Onyx's position in history, Shockwave took upon himself his offer after killing him and seizing control of his herd. Shockwave fashioned a new armor for himself from Onyx's corpse and took on his identity, becoming Onyx Prime, and using his foreknowledge of history to set a series of ontological paradoxes in motion, stretching into the 21st century. Well, this episode is kind of short, but that's okay, especially given the length of other videos. So that's all I have to say. So thanks for listening, and goodbye.